Welcome to 13. Let's go! By the way, this week dropped the 4-year anniversary, the 350th podcast of the Rideshare Rodeo audio podcast. Find it on any audio podcast player, and actually this episode does happen to be on YouTube as well. So you guys check it out. I had Gary Middleton as my guest, and I think we covered a lot of ground. So check out that episode, and let's get into this. So this week, I want to talk about Uber. I mean, I don't, but let's get into this a little bit. So Travis Kalanick, the founder of Uber, launched in 2009. Now in 2024, that we're talking about 15-year span now, right? So I don't know how many people were around Uber 2009, 2012, 13, 14. Then it started kind of getting national a little bit more. It started popping up everywhere, Rideshare, and Travis Kalanick was still the boss. Now, if you go back into the early days of Uber, nobody's perfect, and by no means do I excuse the actions of Mr. Kalanick. There was definitely a boys club thing going on at Uber, and if you guys remember whistleblower Susan Fowler, she wrote a book and exposed the whole thing, everything that was going on in the male-female perspective at Uber at that time, and it was wrong. Don't get me wrong. It was wrong. They were also doing other things that were wrong. I mean, they were pushing those thresholds a little bit too far, and it was starting to juggle with safety and people's privacy and things like that. One thing about Travis, though, that you got to give the guy credit for, you got to, is that he always knew that, yeah, he was going to want a lot of drivers on the platform, but he always knew there was something to the fact of treating drivers better. Now, if he was still around now, would that have changed because all these other actors and people that have come around and apps have kind of done that same thing where they bring the driver pay way up and then they drop it way down? I absolutely think he would have followed market trends and stuff, but I also think he was innovative enough to say, you know what, like, yeah, he still would have to do it, but I think he would have figured out ways that they're not doing at this point. Travis knew that the backbone of Uber was the drivers. Now, how it would be interpreted down the road, it didn't matter. He still knew that was the foundation. I mean, even customers know that. You can have a bunch of customers, but if you don't have good drivers, what does it matter? So if you're going to populate a bunch of drivers and try and get this customer base, which now just exists, but it's slowly dissipating in all the areas because people are either just beyond upset at the prices or they're just not happy with the actual service they get. I mean, I can say this, I've talked about it many times. I did rideshare for many years. And I cleaned my car every night. It did not matter. That was my business. It's your business. These days when I use Uber whenever I need to get around and I might be having a drink or something like that, might be working till late or whatever. Don't want to park my car downtown, which can cost more than taking an Uber downtown and back home. I mean, I'm just saying that, if you're going out at night and stuff, sometimes it's just logical. But the problem is that the Ubers I get into are not even up to par most of the time. And I get why people don't. But at the same time, it's customer service and it's your business. We always forget this. I talk to people every week who always, even when they're like, I know I'm an independent contractor and I know this and I know that I'm my own boss and I can make my own flex time. Yeah, but okay, you got to take all those words to heart. You are your own boss. This is your business. You're using these platforms to sprout leads, let's call them. And these leads turn into one-offs. So you're not maybe getting a customer for life, but here's what I would say to that. Not just for rideshare, for delivery too, of course. But you are an independent contractor by these companies. Approach those drivers. Have a thing, if you're driving rideshare, have a thing on the back of your seat that has a barcode that takes you to even just create a one-page free website, that you do private rides. Because this company's giving you these leads Take them. Get them. Now the customers are so used to bad service in so many respects on these platforms that many drivers are optimizing this, and they didn't used to. And that's a great thing. I mean, I can name a handful of people who I know are doing this, and they should be, because the people are sick of the bad platforms. So when a passenger or somebody you're doing groceries for or something like that, and you connect, you should be grabbing them as your private client. I'm sorry, you should. You're an independent contractor. If a customer, we'll go back to rideshare for a second. If a customer says to you, "Oh, thank you," and you guys had a good conversation, and you notice they're noticing the cleanliness of your car and your good driving or whatever, well, approach them, especially if they give you like leads, like, "Oh, I go to the airport like, twice a week for business, and I always get horrible Uber drivers." That's your clue right there. There you go. That's your in. Because that means they're saying to you, you're giving them a great ride if they're taking the time to say, "I always get bad drivers." And I hear this all the time. So when you hear that, I know that everybody watching this uses these apps to make money. We all do. Well, that's your chance to make a lot more money than you will getting your cut from let's be honest, a cloud-based algorithm that is nothing more than a simple taxi dispatch system. That's all it is. It's all it is on DoorDash. It's all it is on all of them. Some offer different perks, and some have different levels and degrees of that. But to be honest, with rideshare or food delivery, that's all it is. It's a simple dispatch system that often doesn't even work that well. So I would say always grab a client, because a client that says words like that, it's like saying, "Gosh, these prices are outrageous, and I always get bad drivers." Boom, there's your in. So one thing about Travis too, he was definitely basing on technology tapping. No unaccompanied minors was always a thing. Always. No matter what update came out, in all caps, no unaccompanied minors. We were allowed to cancel rides and say, "No, it's a minor." That was an actual option. Cancel. No, it's a minor. The driver got $5. You could just drive away. So that was actually an option, and he wanted you to cancel because he knew you weren't protected. Let's get into that a little more. Technology tapping. Arrives Dara Khosrowshahi in 2017. Dara takes over, and immediately driver pay falls constantly for like 3 years. Uber's still not profiting. They're still not a publicly traded company at this point. I mean, they are now, but they still are not at this point. It's Dara's first 3 years. He had come over from Expedia and had done big things over there, but it was all based on shaving money and shaving how we get there. Well, Expedia is algorithms and things. It doesn't have drivers. So you're not dealing with personnel. But his job was to come in there and make the company money. Still to this day, no. And in fact, when they used to do it before the IPO, they'd raise money for autonomous or VTOL, which is vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, and they'd raise the money. They'd buy out a company. They'd let the investors think that it was a tech company, Uber Technologies. Uber is not a technology company, guys. Let's be honest. If you're not yet familiar with that part because you've seen it written up as they are not a tech company. And at this point, they're sold out of every part of tech that they were in. I mean, they're a dispatch company. They're a dispatch company with high overturn. Travis saw this problem coming. He knew, yeah, we need to keep it oversaturated, but we also need to keep veteran drivers. They don't care about veteran drivers on any platform anymore. So, what happens? Derek comes in, and now he's selling the crap out of your data. Analytic abuse is what I'm calling it. I mean, you're getting, I know not yet with Uber that as far as I know, but Lyft and DoorDash, they're both doing the telematics. You can't be doing that and selling that on independent contractors. And I want to talk about this thing. We know that they've had California AB5 and Prop 22 and Washington State and New York City and these other states' regulations, and they're fighting in Minnesota right now about how to deal with this stuff. But let's go back to what I was really trying to tap into here today. It was more than a history lesson. And again, Travis was not a great guy in many respects, but I pointed it out because now all the CEOs in this space have lost their way, I think. Maybe they never had their way to begin with, but Travis did when he had a vision. He just had a lot of other problems. One of them was womanizing, and that was a big deal. I think that was like the first of Uber's lawsuits too, was all the womanizing that was going on there. So that started it. And then, they were using Phantom and all these other things to grayball and all these other like covert ways of doing things, 59 million user hack, and they try and cover it up. But let's get back to the core of a problem. I understand how Uber works in every respect, and DoorDash and the other platforms. I accept those terms, and when I get on there, I know what I'm going to expect. I know what I'm going to want to make. I know what I won't take, what I will. So get those acceptance ratings out of my face, get those percentages out of my face. Those don't matter. What does matter huge, and should matter huge to all of you, is Uber Teen. Okay, this has really been pissing me off again lately. And this was when I started the website in 2017, uberliftdrivers.com. It was based on the fact that these minors, one of the main reasons I did it, I was being called to high schools all the time. And kids were calling their parents and getting their parents on the phone. And the parents were saying, just take him home. I understand. It's fine. He can ride on my account. No, he can't. It says it right there. I'm like, don't worry, none of the drivers read the TOS either. But you, even as a customer, have a TOS that says no unaccompanied minors. Well, Uber Teen's now running ads even. Not only are they doing this, they're running ads on TikTok left and right about how safe it is. And if you guys are on TikTok, go check it out. Just go scroll TikTok for a while. You will see one. You will see an Uber Teen ad come up from them, not from a person promoting it, about its safety. Well, here's the main thing. Let me explain the safety, because they talk about how the drivers are extremely well vetted in the Uber Teen section, and how they are veteran and they know this like the back of their hand. Okay, no, they don't. And in fact, let's go through it. All that means, if you are driving Uber Teen, it just means that you have had a $23 checker background check that came through, and that you've done 200 rides or more. Doesn't do anything about have you trained to, or are you bonded to be driving children. Here's my challenge to you. If you are doing Uber Teen, turn it off. If you don't want to turn it off, at least go call your insurance agent and make sure, can I be driving teenagers around without a parent in the vehicle? I challenge you to call your insurance agent and ask that. And here's the thing. I already know for a fact, every insurance agent in this country will say no. And that's 13 minutes of news in just under 13 minutes. Peace, y'all.